The Alps, a mountain range that does not simply sit on a map, it divides a continent. Stretching across France, Switzerland, Italy, Austria, the Alps rise like a frozen wave cutting through the heart of Europe. From above, they look endless, white ridges folding into one another, sharp peaks breaking through cloud, glaciers holding light like glass. This is not just scenery, this is structure. For centuries, the Alps have acted as a wall, a barrier between empires, a natural defense no army could easily cross, a line that shaped borders, languages, cultures. But a wall is never just something that blocks, it also protects. North of the Alps, Europe grew differently. South of the Alps, history took another path. Trade routes twisted through narrow passes. Cities formed where mountains allowed them to breathe. And at the center of it all, Mont Blanc, the highest peak in Western Europe, a white summit that feels less like land and more like sky. From Chamonix below, it looks almost unreal, as if the earth suddenly decided to reach upward and never stopped. The wind here is different, colder, cleaner, sharper. The silence is not empty, it is heavy. Standing before the Alps, you understand something immediately. Europe was not built despite these mountains. It was built because of them. They shaped migration, they shaped warfare, they shaped survival. And today, they shape imagination. Skiers carve across slopes that once stopped armies. Hikers walk trails carved by glaciers thousands of years ago. Cable cars rise where only climbers once dared. But the scale never changes. The Alps do not shrink for you. They do not soften. They remain immense, immovable, unapologetic. And this is only the beginning, because beyond this wall of stone and ice, there are peaks the world recognizes instantly and stories that turn these mountains into legends. If the Alps are Europe's wall, then Matterhorn is its face. One shape, one silhouette, so sharp, so perfect, it looks almost designed. Even people who have never been here still recognize it. A pyramid of stone and snow rising above the borderlands of Switzerland and Italy, standing alone, as if it wanted to be remembered. And beneath it, Zermatt, a mountain town that feels like it was built to look upward. Wooden chalets, quiet streets, air that smells like pine and cold metal. In the morning, the peak appears slowly, not all at once. First a faint outline in the mist, then edges, then the full blade of the mountain cutting the sky. This is why Matterhorn became a symbol, because it doesn't need explanation. It is instantly understood. Strength, height, silence, danger. Climbers have died trying to reach its summit, not because the mountain is cruel, but because it is honest. It does not forgive mistakes. It does not care about ambition. It does not reward ego. And yet people keep coming, to ski beneath it, to photograph it at sunrise, to sit by a lake where the peak reflects perfectly, as if the mountain is staring back. Here, nature becomes geometry. Light changes the mountain's mood by the hour. At dawn, it glows pink and gold. By midday, it turns hard and white. At sunset, it burns again, then disappears into night, like a myth closing its eyes. Matterhorn teaches a simple lesson. Some places become famous not because humans made them important, but because they were already extraordinary before humans ever arrived. And in the Alps, that kind of greatness is not rare. It's only waiting. There is a reason people call it the roof, Mont Blanc. the highest peak in Western Europe, rising above France and Italy like a white crown that never melts out of memory. But Mont Blanc is not a single mountain. It is a whole world of altitude, glaciers, ridgelines, storms, and a cold that feels ancient. And at its doorstep, Chamonix, a town that lives in the shadow of giants, a place where mountaineering is not a hobby, but a culture. Walk through the streets and you'll feel it. Posters of climbers, ropes in shop windows, weather reports spoken like prayers, cafes filled with people who look up, then look down at maps, then look up again. Because in Chamonix, the mountain is always present. Even if you never climb, the Alps still pull you upward. Cable cars lift you into thin air. Ice fields spread like frozen oceans. Crevasses open like cracks in another planet. And suddenly, the world below becomes small, quiet, distant. This is where the Alps turn from beautiful to serious, where admiration becomes respect, where a perfect photo becomes a warning. Nature is not here to perform for you. And still, people return. Because Mont Blanc offers something rare, a feeling of scale so intense it resets your mind. It reminds you how far the earth can rise, how quickly weather can change, how thin the line is between control and surrender. And in this region, history runs deep too. Chamonix is often linked with the early story of winter sports, a place where the modern world learned to turn snow and altitude into a stage, not only for competition, but for imagination. Mont Blanc stands above it all, silent, glowing, unmoved by applause. And maybe that is the real reason it remains legendary. Because some mountains are not meant to be conquered, they're meant to be witnessed. And once you've seen Mont Blanc, you start to crave something else in the Alps. Movement. The roads, the passes, the curves that cut through the mountains like a signature. If mountains are the Alps' backbone, then the roads are its pulse. Because the Alps are not only meant to be stared at, they're meant to be crossed. And nowhere is that feeling clearer than on the legendary passes, where the land twists, climbs, and dares you to follow. Stelvio Pass, a name that sounds like motion. A ribbon of asphalt stitched into the mountain, climbing higher and higher through switchbacks stacked like steps. From above, it looks impossible. Hairpin after hairpin, each turn tighter than the last, each curve carving a signature into stone. This is not a road built for convenience, it is built for drama. Motorbikes lean into corners like they're dancing, cars crawl upward, engine notes echoing off cliffs. Cyclists fight gravity, breath visible in cold air, driven by nothing but will. And then you reach the top, and everything opens. Peaks in every direction, wind strong enough to push you sideways, a silence that arrives after the noise, like the mountain finally speaks once you've earned the right to listen. But Stelvio is only one chapter. Across the Alps, there are roads that feel like cinema. High alpine highways cutting past glaciers, passes where clouds spill over ridgelines, tunnels that swallow you in, then release you into sunlight. These routes were once lifelines, trade, migration, survival, the only way through the wall. Now, they've become pilgrimages for travelers, not because they are fast, but because they are unforgettable. Every turn changes the view, every climb changes the temperature, every drop reveals another valley hiding quietly below the peaks. This is the Alps in motion, not a postcard, but an experience. And the deeper truth is this: the Alps don't give you beauty for free. They make you work for it. They make you climb. They make you earn the view. And once you felt that, once the road has pulled you through stone and sky, you start to understand what comes next. Because after the speed comes stillness, lakes, valleys, places so calm they feel impossible in the same mountains that just tested you. After the passes, the Alps change again. The adrenaline fades, the wind softens, and the mountains stop roaring, not because they became smaller, but because they began to cradle. This is the other face of the Alps, the valleys and lakes that look like someone painted them too perfectly. Lake Como, a name that feels like elegance. Water so calm it becomes a mirror. Villages wrapped around the shoreline like jewelry. Green hills rising behind them. And above that, the quiet presence of the mountains. Here, the Alps don't feel like a wall. They feel like a backdrop for a dream. Boats cut slow lines across the lake. Cafes face the water as if time is unlimited. Even the sunlight feels softer, as if it knows this place is meant for beauty. And then, Lake Geneva. Bigger, wider, a lake that touches borders the way the Alps do. It holds cities and vineyards along its edge, yet the mountains remain the true horizon. Snow-dusted peaks watching silently as life moves gently below. But perhaps the most unforgettable moments are not on the water. They are in the valleys. Lauterbrunnen, a name that sounds like air and distance. A deep green basin surrounded by cliffs where waterfalls drop like white threads from the sky. Where tiny villages sit in the open and the mountains rise so steeply they look unreal. This is why the Alps stay in people's minds, because they can be brutal and still be tender. They can test you on a road, then heal you beside a lake. In these valleys, sound changes. Cowbells echo across meadows. Streams whisper through grass. Footsteps soften on dirt paths. And the world feels lighter. Not because life has no problems here, but because the landscape reminds you how small those problems can become. And when the sun drops behind the ridges, the lakes darken into glass. The valleys turn quiet, and the Alps return to what they always were: a presence. Not demanding, not explaining, simply there. When winter arrives, the Alps transform. Green disappears. Water freezes, and the mountains become pure light. Snow does not hide the Alps, it reveals them. Every ridge becomes sharper, every slope becomes a line waiting to be drawn, every village turns into something that feels almost fictional. This is when the Alps become a stage. Ski lifts rise slowly into white silence. Gondolas float above forests buried in snow. Tracks carve across mountainsides like signatures erased overnight by fresh snowfall. In places like St. Moritz, Zermatt, and the French Alps, winter is not a season, it is identity. Hotels glow warm against frozen air. Fireplaces crackle behind wooden walls. Boots press into snow that answers with a soft crunch. But beyond comfort, there is competition. The same slopes that tourists descend for pleasure have hosted champions. The same peaks that look peaceful have become arenas. The Alps have shaped winter sport from the beginning. Chamonix, 1924, the first Winter Olympic Games. Athletes racing not against each other alone, but against altitude, cold, and gravity. And soon the French Alps will host the world again, because no artificial stadium can replicate what these mountains provide naturally. Speed feels different at elevation. Air feels thinner. Silence feels heavier. Skiers launch from ridgelines that once stopped armies. Snowboards cut across terrain formed by glaciers thousands of years ago. Crowds gather, small beneath vast peaks, cheering in places where nature is still in control. This is the paradox of the Alps in winter. Human precision against natural enormity. A perfectly timed jump against an ancient mountain. And yet, the mountains do not compete. They simply remain. White, cold, unmoved. Winter in the Alps is not about conquering snow. It is about learning how to move within it. And when the thaw eventually comes, when white melts back into green, the Alps change once more. Because beneath the snow, another season is waiting. The Alps are not one look, and the Dolomites prove it. In northern Italy, the mountains change shape, not rounded, not soft, but sharp, dramatic, almost surreal. Here, rock rises like blades. The peaks don't feel like they grew from the earth. They feel like they were placed there, carefully, for maximum impact. And that's why the world photographs them endlessly. At sunrise, the stone turns pink. Not a little pink. A deep, glowing color that looks like fire trapped inside rock. It's called alpenglow, and in the Dolomites, it feels like magic. People come for the same reason they always come to mountains, to feel small. But they leave with something modern, a memory captured perfectly. Ridgelines like Cicada, where the earth suddenly drops away into open space. Meadows so green they look edited. Cabins resting alone beneath enormous cliffs, as if the landscape is too grand to share. In summer, the Dolomites become a different kind of stage. Hiking trails cut across high grass and wildflowers. Lakes sit cold and still, reflecting peaks like mirrors. And every corner you turn looks like the cover of a travel magazine. But the Dolomites are not just pretty, they are powerful. The rock here is ancient. The weather turns fast. The terrain can shift from gentle to dangerous in a few minutes of walking. And that contrast, beauty and risk, is what makes these mountains unforgettable. Because the Dolomites don't just give you views, they give you drama. They give you silence that feels like a cathedral. They give you skies so wide they make your thoughts quieter. And in a world overloaded with images, the Dolomites still manage to feel new. Not because they changed, but because they remind you how much beauty can still be real. And after this, after peaks like blades and sunrise rock like fire, there's only one direction left for our story. Back to the heart of the Alps. Back to what all these places were really doing. Changing you. In the end, the Alps leave you with one feeling: scale. Not the kind you measure with numbers, the kind you feel in your chest. Because after the icons, Matterhorn, Mont Blanc, the passes, the lakes, the winter slopes, the Dolomites, you realize the Alps were never about collecting places. They were about becoming aware. Aware of distance, of height, of weather, of time. You stand on a ridge at sunrise. The air is thin and still. Light spills across peaks like liquid gold, and for a moment, the entire world looks untouched. Below you, valleys are quiet. Lakes hold reflections without movement. Villages are tiny dots of warmth against a landscape that feels infinite. And suddenly, you understand why people return. Not for the photo, not for the luxury, not even for the adventure. They return for clarity. Because the Alps strip everything down. Your schedule stops mattering. Your phone feels pointless. Your worries shrink into the background as wind and silence take over. Here, nature doesn't entertain you, it resets you. It reminds you that humans are temporary, that mountains are patient, that snow will fall whether you are ready or not, that the sun will rise whether you watch it or not. And yet the Alps are not cold in spirit. They hold beauty so intense it feels personal. A trail that leads to a hidden viewpoint, a lake that mirrors the sky so perfectly it looks like another world below your feet. A moment when you stop walking, stop thinking, and just breathe. That is what the Alps give you. Not ownership, not control, perspective. Because you don't conquer the Alps, you meet them. And in that meeting, something shifts. You leave with the same problems you arrived with, but they weigh less. You return to the world a little quieter, a little calmer, and somehow more alive.